Yo, what is up? My name is Sven and today I'm going to show you guys how to build the new circle ring base meta. Now, we are all familiar with the 3x3 ring base, but today I'm going to show you guys a base that fits on a floor plan that includes a circle base inside the same ring around. Now, this of course comes with an actual base design. Without further ado, let me show you around. The main reason for the base to be called the Circle Shell is due to the fact that this base is kind of disguised. There's a circle base that's completely unattached from an outer shell overlapping the entire core. If you were to look from top down, you would not see that this base is a circle base at all, hence the reason for its name. This base is also inspired by the original shell ideas I had with the 3x3 cores, although this time we're going for a circle core. Also, before I forget, I would like to specially credit KK, aka the guy that I've been working with on this base and all its variants. For the builders under us, this base should be relatively easy to build, although you are going to need the floor stack. The best and biggest difference, if you compare this base to my other 3x3 shells, is that this base is a lot stronger. With the initial core and starter being a circle, plus being able to attach honeycomb on most of the circle outside, this base, both in starter terms but also in final terms, is a lot stronger than the 3x3 shells on my channel. Just to give you all a better understanding of the base, we are here with a top-down view and I've laid out every single TC that's attached to this base. As you can see, the initial core is completely unattached from the outer ring, and so it has its own TC. Now, there's 9 TCs total, with one of the corner ones being attached to the actual ring. The other 3 are unattached. Now, it's important to understand how the TCs work, also for you to be able to explain to your teammates that they don't just need the main TC. They are also for sure going to need the TC that's connected to the outer ring. If you make sure your external TCs are all well protected, it is basically impossible for raiders to gain building privilege, unless they of course raid every single TC. In this case, the outer ring, the shell, would be protecting the inner core in terms of takeovers. Now, speaking of features of this base, there's one more thing that's quite acknowledgeable, which is the main open loot room on the top. Now, you see this a lot in a lot of bases recently, and just for this particular video containing how to do that main loot room on the top, you should always assume and always try to build something different than what I'm building on the video. Most people that are going to see this base from the outside are gonna think that the base will be exactly as how it is in the video. And so you can actually gain an insane advantage by building the outside the same, but the inside different. Please do that. If you're smart enough, you can easily adapt this design to your likings and fool raiders thinking they're probably raiding a YouTube base, when in reality it's not. Good luck on that. Now let's talk about upkeep and building costs. Now once again, I would like to remind that I built the whole base in metal. I haven't built a single frame in stone, so I could definitely cut upkeep in terms of stone and metal, but focusing more on the type of groups and the type of servers this base will be built on, it wouldn't matter. Now the building cost would sum up to be about 200k metal-ish. Now in terms of upkeep, this base is definitely something you should not expect to be able to be upkept for at least 24 hours. That's just not it. I do have to say I have tried to make this base multi-TC'd and I have a different variants, although it does change the core and stability, so it wouldn't be the same base anymore. Now this base has 9 TCs. We have the initial core TC, the circle core in the middle. Then we have one TC on the outside corners that also has the outer ring attached. We We have 3 more on the other outside corners that are separated. And then we have 4 for the wide gap shooting floor in the center parts. On each side 1. Now the upkeep on the main TC is actually very manageable. And it's only about 9,000 metal frags. Now with all doors it would probably be about 12,000 metal frags in total. It's definitely very manageable. You can definitely get like 2 days upkeep. Now, all the outside TCs, except for the one that's connected to the outer ring, the upkeep is very manageable as well. The corner ones will only be about 2,000 metal frags a day. It can easily fit like a week of upkeep in there and never look at them again. Now, the center ones are a bit more expensive, although you can definitely get a bunch of days of upkeep in those as well. There should only be about 5,000 metal fragments a day. The only TC that would be the kind of bad one is the one that has the outer ring attached. That one should be about 50 to 60,000 metal a day. Now, the upside of it is you can easily fit 8 hours, 9 hours, although that's the downside as well. It is very expensive. I agree, I know. And once again, sorry for that. Now, on first glance, this base looks pretty massive. Is it massive? Not really. Technically, it's a simple 3x3 ring base. But instead with a circle core and the 3x3 ring being a square bigger. That's basically the only difference. Now, it scares a lot of people off because of the wide gap shooting floor with all the frames. Although, necessarily, if you look at how many walls it is to loot and stuff like that, it is not that much more. Now, since in this case, the base design, the main loot will be on the top, that does not count. Now, either way, you can see it's very symmetrical. I didn't really like spam doors or anything because you should only be building this base if you're active, at least an active 8-man, and like you think you're gonna get online rated. So we have our normal core, or I mean a ring, sorry. Basically the same as the 3x3 ring, although when we go in here you'll see that it's completely separated inner core. This core is not a 3x3, this core is a circle base. This has a lot of advantages. For example, the fact that it can actually be honeycombed early on. Not on all parts, but on most parts. And also the fact that it's a circle base is a lot more starter friendly. I think it fits a lot more space than in the 3x3. And it's definitely a stronger base to build in the start of your wipe either way. Now the way I have laid out this initial starter is to my own preferences, although you can build it however you like. Now once we get up here, we have the initial starter bedrooms. Could be useful to have some bedrooms up on your actual starter. And here we have the peaks. Now once again, we have the, as I like to call them, ankle biters. Peaks in the peaks. We have our first ring of peaks. These peaks are especially really nice because they're floor stacked, allowing us to get a lot of different peak angles. So once we go out from peaks, we enter one of the corners, and there's a door on each corner. Now once again, I have decided to close off peaks, and I'll explain why in the actual build of the base. But it all comes down to the fact that your triangle peaks would crumble here. An extra ladder hatch in case you do want to jump down here, or in case you do need that specific angle to shoot from. For the rest, the outer ring is fairly simple. On two corners we have the ladder hatches going down, so you can actually go down or up from your peaks. Especially useful to reach main loot, so you don't have to go through all the way the core. Now we have a corner. On the corner we have a turret, so that it covers everything, and it's also the jump up. Now you could consider putting the turret lower, although it won't cover these pathways. That's why it's nice to have the triangle and the turret on top. Now up here, before we take the ladder hatch up, we actually have peaks into our peaks. You could just half all this out completely if you want. You don't need it, but it's nice to have an extra angle if you need it. Now going up here, we actually decided to go up the ladder hatch that also has the way into the main loot. Now we can either continue going up through this jump up to the roof and the shooting floor, or we can go into main loot. We also have a nice bedroom here. Now each corner is exactly the same, although in my case we have two corners that go into main loot. The other two are walled off, and it's just a jump up with a bedroom. So we go in here, we have the initial batteries. I mentioned that too. These are not my turret batteries. These are batteries I usually put for lights and heaters. It's the same on the other side. The whole loot room is mirrored. It's completely open. You can basically customize this loot room however you like. I kind of want to force people to do that. I would definitely not recommend to build it exactly like this, although I think it just looks amazing to have it open like this, and it's especially good for all the turrets. It's really, really hard to breach this loot room, and with the ramp on the floors of the loot rooms from the outside, it also can be very annoying to breach in here. That with the turrets combined. So that's main loot. We continue going here, and we have the next jump up. We go to the roof. Now, before we actually enter the main hub of the roof, we have the ability to actually peek our main roof. This is especially nice if raiders have taken control over your shooting floor and your roof. This way, you don't actually have to go through your shooting floor to clear your roof. So you could potentially clear your roof first and then clear your shooting floor in case of a raid. Now in the core here, I've decided to add another loot room. This is especially nice if you're getting raided and you can defend your base from here. Although I would definitely recommend to never actually build this exactly the same either way. It's also one floor down to main loot. It's kind of bad, but you could consider adding a half wall floor here instead of a bedroom with loot. Now going around the ring is exactly the same. It's very simple. Single door and a ladder hatch going up to the roof, and that's the same on every single side. And here we have the shooting floor. White cap shooting floor, once again, very similar to the 2x2 I've designed or I've released earlier. It is definitely one of the better shooting floors in Rust, I think, because it can't crumble. Your base can get entirely cored, but this shooting floor stays up. And with the bedrooms here also functioning as cover for if you're peeking here. You can see there's a little cover here. And on the bedrooms that I've made here, there's also a window. Now I've decided to leave it a glass, although you could pick it up. If your base is breached and there's a big hole, you could potentially get some angles looking into your base as well. Now that is basically it for the base tour. Most of the things about the base I will actually explain during the build instead of now. So that is it for the build. Alright, now once again we're going to floor stack, and therefore we kind of need a flat ground. Now you don't need a specific entire flat ground, it depends on how good your floor stacking skills are. Although I would recommend, if you're not that good with it, to just go for somewhat flat ground. We're gonna perform our first floor stack, and we're just gonna do it the exact same way as I always do it. Now, from the lower triangle, you're gonna put 3 squares like that. You can remove everything except this final square here. And from this square, you're gonna connect a circle. And you add another square. So you're gonna be left with something like that. Now you have your final triangle floor stack here. Now don't upgrade this triangle like I have. You want to place a triangle back inwards and then remove that one and put it into a square. You can leave the triangle going back inwards. You should not be able to place the walls here, although you should be able to place the wall here and here. Now there's 2 variations that you can build. You can either have this as a square or have this as a triangle. The difference is that the ring around will be honeycombed or it won't. AKA there's a cheaper version and a more expensive version. And we're going to go for the cheaper version, although the more expensive version is also definitely better. So just to give you guys an idea, this is the floor plan that we will be going for, and this is the floor plan of the more expensive version, although also the better version. Depends on how active your group is. Specifically with this version, since the ring around is all on 1 TC, you cannot get that many hours on upkeep. And so you definitely need to make sure you know what you're doing if you do consider building that. Now, from the circle that we just placed, we're gonna add squares on each side and fill every gap a triangle. But where do you want your way in or out doesn't really matter as long as it's not facing one of those triangles directly. Now, if it does help you, you could build the entire ring around already to make sure to decide where you want your ways in. I'm just gonna do that in Twig for now. So we're gonna have 3 squares centered out like that, and we're gonna do triangle, triangle, square, triangle, triangle, and then 3 squares again. And that way we are creating the initial ring. Now, the only thing that matters when you decide where you want your way out is as long as it's not facing one of those, so the longer end. So we're just gonna place walls there just to prevent us from not deciding to put a door there. For the rest, it really doesn't matter, although I like to add my honeycomb and then create an airlock using that. You can do a single door airlock. You can also do a double door airlock. I'm gonna do a double door airlock and We can do 1. We can also decide to go for 2. We're gonna go for 2 and have it exactly mirrored like that. Now we're gonna completely wall the rest off. And we're also going to decide where do we want our way up. It really doesn't matter either. In our case, we're gonna have it right here. Now for the rest, you can basically close everything in. And of course, to place the TC, you can basically place it anywhere. But I like to place it like that. For loot rooms, it's kind of important. I just like to have not directly a way straight in. So what I usually do is something like that. So there's at least like some doors going in. And I like to mirror that. So it goes like that. So we have both ways in exactly mirrored. Now here we could put our tier 3, some furnaces, and here we could have 1 or 2 loot rooms. We could have more furnaces there. Now, before we build up our starter circle base, I would like to point out that this part is not connected to that TC. In fact, it's not connected to a TC at all. It's going to be connected to the outer ring. It's going to be part of the outer ring, and since it's floor stacked, we are not going to connect it at all to the main TC. So this part will be the king. So make sure it's at least stone and make sure you upgrade it every once in a while. If you don't like that, make sure you can build the outer ring, connect its own TC before you build up this circle part. And we're gonna go all the way around for the second floor, but we're gonna honeycomb this one right here and go around like that. For the rest, we're just gonna go with walls around. And once again, you can basically make this entire circle base the way you like. I'm gonna show you guys how I like mine. I like to have my second floor like this. 2 loot rooms with 8 boxes, 2 little squares, 1 plus a triangle over there as well for furnaces, and then the jump up in this exact triangle. We're gonna close it all up. Now for how I like my third floor, we're gonna have to build up all the honeycomb. Now we're gonna build a wall around, but we're gonna go on the outline of the honeycomb. For the initial core, we have the jump up right here. We're going to do a wall like that. Door, window, wall like that. We're gonna fill in that honeycomb and we're gonna add a jump up right there. And this is our way up to the next part and our way down. It's kind of like a hub. And for this side, we're gonna have a loot room. Oh. Should be left with something like that. And then this bigger part, we fill in the honeycomb. And we make extra space for more boxes. I like to have this space because in your starter, if you're playing in an active group like you should be when you're building the space, you're definitely gonna need the space. Now, for the final floor, which is the bedroom floor of your starter, don't worry, this is not going to be the only bedroom floor. We're going to go around once again, but we are gonna make 2 openings for the ways up to the peaks. Now, it doesn't really matter where you do them. Let's do 1 right there and 1 right there. Doors. You can place those doors just so no one can get into your base. For now, we can put a roof on top. Wall in like that. Walls. Wall. So this is a couple of doors going in, couple of doors going in. This can be a bedroom with some lockers. So you can just completely wall that in, and this is your initial starter. Don't build up the honeycomb here because we're gonna be doing peaks, so you don't want to have honeycomb there. Now for the outer ring, and this part you could do earlier as well. Depends on what you like. From the initial square that we have, we're gonna do 2 squares, so we have 3 in total. And then from one of the ends, we're gonna do triangle, triangle, square, triangle, triangle, square. And then we're gonna do 3 more squares. Each long end, we're gonna do 3 squares. What you can also do is place a refinery. Could be very nice, though it does make your stability a tiny little bit less, which doesn't really matter. Now, you want to decide where you want your way out. I like to do it like that, so it's not exactly at the door, like that. And we're gonna build up the walls around the initial core. Now we're just gonna do 1 layer of walls first, and we're gonna connect the actual TC on the outside. So, what I like to do is on one of the squares, we build 2 more squares like that. We're gonna put a wall, and in this case, I like to have turrets on the corners. So we're gonna do a half wall, floor, and 2 frames like that. This is just so that the foundations are connecting. Now, we're gonna do 1 foundation. We're gonna do 2 foundations, 2 in total, 3, 4, and then on the 4th, we should already be able to place the TC actually. So we're gonna do 2 triangles and then a TC. Now you could wall this in, you could put a door on, that's totally up to you. Although one thing that does matter is that you have the frames like that, so that it's actually connecting. I like to say that probably want to make sure this TC is somewhat reinforced, if not build it differently, because it's going to be taking over most part of your base. Also, anyone living in your base, they need both of these TCs. It's very important. Now we're going to build up the inner ring because we want to get peaks up so that we could potentially defend the base early on. And we're going to add another third floor as well. Now, 4 peak downs. On each long end where it's open like that, we're going to do triangles like that. And from the inside, we're going to connect a triangle to the right. You could also do one to the left, it doesn't matter. Though I usually just go to the right like that. Now, these peaks are not that bad at all, although there is quite a gap here. So to finalize the peaks from the 2 corner walls, kind of, we do 2 triangles and we build them backwards like that. That is your peak downs. On each corner, we are going to do a double door with a wall. And we're going to do the double door on the right wall. So wall and then double door. Now, on the longer ends, we're going to do windows. Now, to secure your starter, I would recommend to place glass windows in here. Just so that no one can get in. And here, actually, you want to do double doors. Because you want these doors to open and close fast. I know it's not as strong if you end up with 4 double armored doors. You can do those. But for now, we're just going to have double doors and glass windows here. And then we're going to secure our wall in the top. So we're going to do squares. And we're basically just going to go around. It doesn't really matter where you start with the squares. We're just going to go around so that we can seal off the whole roof. And voila, we have a starter. Now, I know these windows may look very role-player-ish. Later on, they're going to be very useful. Now, for the outer ring, for the outer wall, I like to have a door in the middle. Just practical. So yeah, we're just going to put the door frame in the middle and we're going to put walls all the way around. Now, we're going to build up the walls 4 floors, so 3 more times. Should be left with something like this. On each corner from where you go out with the door, you place a triangle, a floor, and another triangle. So we're going to create these corners, kind of. Now, on 2 of the corners, I usually like to have a ladder hatch so that you can actually go down and up from your peaks. Now, on these parts, to match up, we're going to do frame, half wall, window. So you do that on all 4 corners. Now, on the corners with the ladder hatches, it's nice to do windows. Oh, these windows don't really matter. You could even do floors here. Now, on the top of your peaks, we're going to do triangle, floor, triangle, floor. And in the middle one, we're going to do a ladder hatch. So first of all, the reason there's a ladder hatch is just so you have another potential angle to peek down. Now, I know it's a ladder hatch, it's old school, but I really don't see a reason why you shouldn't have this ladder hatch. You could also decide to completely remove the ladder hatch and just put a floor. It's also fine. Although you would say that normally on a base like this, you would have your initial triangle peaks. Now, those triangle peaks are good. Although in my case, because there's these windows, which should all be removed, there's not a single way to connect the triangles to the core wall itself. Now, of course, if you make this into a normal wall, you could say, fuck the windows. I totally agree with that. Connecting the triangles to the outer wall is pointless. It's completely pointless, because the outer wall is going to get blown for sure. And so those peaks will always crumble. Now, the same goes for the inner wall, actually. The inner wall will always get blown as well. It doesn't matter which part they splash. The triangles will crumble as well. Which means that right here, there will be a massive gap like this. When you're getting online rated, there will be this massive gap. It will not... no matter how you do it, there will always be that massive gap. Unless you find some extra way to put floors or... I don't know. To get extra stability to your triangles. So, a way to counter that is... Instead, I decide to go for the windows. And I decide to go for floors, because there's less floors and they give higher stability. Which means that if your base is getting blown, for example, right here, the floors stay. You can see the floors stay. At this point, the triangles would already be gone. Continue on, the floors will still stay, as you can see. Now, this is all the walls that are holding up the floors. Raiders are most likely not going to be blowing any other wall, which means that your peaks won't crumble. Which means that raiders cannot ladder up here unless they blow it. Which means that you gain control of your peaks at all times. If they still get up here and they ladder up here, you have these windows to fight from. Would also like to address that I'm spam building in metal. Now, I usually don't really do that these days because I do consider that you guys may not be as active in terms of group or numbers as I usually am in terms of farming and in terms of playtime. But this is a base that you should definitely only be building if you have an active group that's actively online. That definitely plays to get online rated. Now, to secure your inner peaks for the base, this part might get a little bit confusing. Now, on the corners, you want to do triangle jump ups. That's why you do that on every single corner. Now, for all of your corners, you're going to do 2 triangles on top of those frames. Now, a part comes that is also very dependable on your group. Something that you can decide to do or not to. But since we have the floor stack right under this floor right here, it is actually impossible for us to place walls. Now, to fix that, we need to kind of create a so-called, what I like to call it, dead floor. A floor that basically compensates for this area right here. And as you can see, for example, if we build a half wall higher, we can build any walls on top again. So to kind of like undo the floor stack, we need to create at least a half wall height with floors on top and seal that in before we are able to like completely place any walls here. So how do we proceed with that? Well, easiest way is to just build entire wall layer around. Probably be smart to keep one wall open. First priority is to secure the outer layer of peaks. That's kind of like put walls here. This middle part can actually be completely open like that for now. What I like to do is I like to add double door frames here with a floor on top. Also, something that you should probably keep in mind is you could, for example, half wall this. You could also put a low wall, which will allow you to, when you're coming down from your main loot or your shooting floor or your bedroom, before you jump down into peaks, you're going to be able to peek through this half wall and potentially kill raiders. For the rest, we're going to seal this part in. Now, the easiest solution to these corners is to place a ladder hatch, really. Like that. It's a little bit high, but you should easily be able to make that. This half wall area right here, it's kind of a dead area, though I just like to add it as honeycomb. At this point, at least your outer layer of peaks is also secured, although it's just one ladder hatch. Now, our main loot is actually going to be a half wall in here. So, as you notice, we can still not place any walls, but we are going to place half walls wherever we can. Now, I already figured it out. Of course, you can only place them on the following spots. So we completely close this whole thing off. You should be left with something like this. Now, our main loot room floor is actually going to be 1.5 height for the turrets. Now, you might wonder, what about external TCs? What if I don't want to get griefed early on? Once again, you can decide to do this part, the following part, earlier in your build, in case you think you're gonna get griefed. I would actually recommend to build all the external TCs earlier on. Now, this shooting floor will be very, very similar to the shooting floor on my previous 2x2 base design. It's basically the same, if not entirely the same. So we're just gonna speed this part of the base build a little bit up. For every corner, you're going to have a square like that. Although we're going to make sure that this square is not connected. Okay, we need to multi-TC it. And we need to offset it in both directions once. So we're first going to start with the first direction, which is towards 330. And later on, we need to do towards east-northeast, kind of. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Triangle, remove everything. Build back with triangles. And a square on the end. As you can see, it's only offset in that direction. We still need to offset it in that direction. So we remove everything here. We do, once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, 8 in total. Remove everything and build back with triangles. Now, this triangle is this square is completely separated from the base. As you can see, it is not connected. Now, I have the same square as we have there because we want to have a turret pot in the corner like this. And then we're gonna do 1. So we have two squares, 3, And on the fourth one, we put the TC. And once again, make sure you have the window or the the frames, so it's all connected. There we go. Now we have one takeover TC. Now we do that same corner on the other two corners as well. And once you've done your corner TCs, we obviously need to do our middle TCs as well. Now we're gonna do the classic wide gap that we also did on the 2x2 as well, which is 2 triangles out from the center, a square, and then 3 half moons, like this. Now you remove everything that you just placed except the final triangle, and we go back with squares. You lay that out like that, and the wide gap is good. You remove all that. Now we do one more square, and we do triangles on the end. So you're left with something like that. 4 squares, triangles back to the base, and 2 triangles on both of the ends. As you can see, we're not exactly mirrored. We want the TC to be mirrored, so we do triangles like that, and we go with foundations. We go 1, 2, 3, and then the triangle. This should be able to place the TC. That. Now a lot of people mention also the fact that I don't use disconnectable TCs. You could do that, but in my experience I only get rated once, maybe twice, if I'm lucky 3 times. And the worst case scenario, if you're gonna have to replace your TCs, is that you're gonna have to demolish all of them, aka shoot them out with or explo ammo and place them back in the right order. That's the worst case scenario. Now I don't get rated 10 times a day, so I don't need to disconnect my TCs like 10 times a day, and so I don't use disconnected TCs, but you could definitely be using them on this base design. I have this TC also on the other side. You should be left with something like this. Now we don't actually have to do anything else. We have all the TCs covered. You could build a compound around now as well, but you can at least not get griefed. Now we continue on and we add another floor of walls. Obviously, we're going to need a way into our main loot. I usually choose this carefully, but I only choose to do 2 of the 4 ways up to the shooting floor. We'll also have a way up into the main loot. The other 2 will just be sealed off. And so I usually look at the map and decide to put the door on any parts or corners that I think will get rated the least likely. So you want to make sure this door is facing this square. Of course, you don't have to, but like that. And we do the same, and we just wall the rest in. Now, on the corners, I always have bedrooms. Always. And they're the best because they're both bedrooms that will lead you down into your peaks, but also bedrooms that are very close to your main loot. So jump up and bedroom. So each corner has a jump up and a door into the main loot, while only 2 have a door into the main loot. All the others have a bedroom and a jump up. We can completely seal the rest off once again. Now you should be left with something like this. I've secured all the jump ups with a garage door, and the only thing we need to build now is the shooting floor. As you can see in the actual main loot, it's completely open, but I just wanted to show you that everything is completely sealable without even placing a single wall in here, due to the stability. Now, I like to have a wall or window like that, and what I usually do, but once again, this is very preference based. You can do a wall like that with a window, and the same on the other side. I usually put a utility battery in there, aka a battery that mostly does like the lights and the heaters in your base. Now, I would basically say do whatever you want here. Doesn't really matter. One thing, no matter how you do it, that you should probably do is you should honeycomb your turret spots. So like, for example, up here, you put 2 turrets there, but you honeycomb it from the outside. That way it's another extra wall to your turret. And this should give you more than enough spots to have your turrets. And this is how I like to do it. Now, for the shooting floor, we're gonna have to build frames, a lot of frames. And so I'm gonna show you guys the best way to build these frames during a wipe, the fastest way, because it can be very annoying to build this all the way up, and I do that eight times, and it's a pain in the ass, trust me. So what you want to do is you want to at least build your first layer of frames, the one like that and the one like that, the same as there. So you want to make sure they're all on the same height. So they're all 1 floor tall. Now, we're also gonna align the corners so they're the same height. Once it's all this height, this is where it starts. Now you wanna get a little bit of ladders, would be useful, and some mats in case you do fall down. Although, once you get them on too high, you wanna ladder up. You wanna stand up on here. And as you can notice that you can run around completely, jumping over all of them. So we're gonna do layer by layer. Also, wanna make sure that you build all of these straight away in metal. That way you don't have to ladder up later on. So we're gonna build the first one. Now we're gonna ladder up here, and once you're up here, you should be able to place all of them from here. So you're gonna do that, and the same goes there. So you're gonna have to jump there. This is a bit tricky. As you can see, we can do the whole thing like that. Once you're done with, for example, this longer side, you can do the corner as well. Like that. Now you just jump to the next part. Bam. And you ladder up here and you do the same. For your longer ends, let's call them like that, you want to have them 5 tall. You want to have frames until the 5th frame height. For your corners, from the inside one, you want to also do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to continue, and I'm going to do 1, and then you have to do the same on all the other 3. So we're going to do floors like that. We're going to do frames like that. We're going to go wall, window, window, wall. And we're going to do like that. Window there, wall there, floor there. I mean, frame. Now here you put floors. And the same goes here. Same goes here. Later on, here you could either have a jump up, or you can have a ladder hatch. Ladder hatch or jump up. Now, for here, we're gonna do triangles and squares. Like that. For now, we're just gonna have it like that and do the same on every single part. Now, you should be left with something like this. You can go and on each round part, you put windows. Now, on the core of the shooting floor, one thing you should keep in mind is on the corners, there should always be the walls. So one thing we also want is a wall right there because of the jump up, and to mirror it out, we're gonna do it like that. This part right here should be open. If we put walls here, the white cap will be useless because you won't be able to peek because there will be a wall blocking you. So what I would recommend is just to put a door right there and 2 windows like that. So that's our core for the shooting floor. Now for the outer ring, for sure we need to have 2 doors like that. We need to actually have double doors that are always facing open, to block people from getting in there. On the outside here, we put low walls, or half walls, I mean, and we close it off like that. Then we do that on each corner. Now, for stability reasons, we need to have frames right there, and we also need to have frames right here. Before we close everything off, I would recommend to put at least a half wall here with floors. And you could even put a full wall on the sides if you really wanted to. You could put a room here, or like a defense room, bedrooms, whatever. You could also just completely half wall this to just make your main loot secure as hell, because right now it's just 1 floor. So keep that in mind. Now if you have those jump ups, you want to basically just completely wall in the rest the following way. Now for the core of your shooting floor, I kinda just wanna like completely let that up to you guys. Now at this jump up, for sure you're gonna need a wall. That's one thing we need 100%. A wall, and then what I like to have is still have the peaks on these corners. So we're gonna have that, and then we're gonna close that in. We're gonna do low walls, half walls, floor on the top, and complete the stairs up. How you place the stairs doesn't really matter, but this way they're not in the way, so you can still run past it. What's really nice about this is when you spawn in your bedroom and you come up to your shooting floor, you don't actually have to enter your entire shooting floor at all to peek your roof. You can go straight up here to peek your roof. If your shooting floor is breached but your roof isn't, you can actually start by taking, and your roof is as well, you can start by clearing out your roof from these peaks first, killing the raiders there, get roof control, and then kill the raiders on your shooting floor. It's actually very useful to have that. So we have that on each corner. Now for these parts, I'm not going to use them as roof peaks, although you could. You could, for example, do this. Place a roof like that. You could do that, although I'm not going to do that.
I'm just gonna half wall it completely in. Now the reason I'm actually half walling it is so you can stand there. Now yeah, for your roof, sorry, we go and put corners, and then here we just put full roofs. Now you could, if you want this to connect, which is kind of nice, you just want to make sure on the corner here you are using a triangle. So you'll see it should all connect. For the rest of the roof, you should have a lot of turrets. You could add a mini garage, you could leave it all the way open, and you should probably have windmill towers. Now, what I would recommend is to attach your windmill towers to your wide gap shooting floor. Why? Because your initial ring TC, aka this one, is already gonna be a lot of upkeep. Right now it's 50k, and so windmill towers add more upkeep, and so it's probably best you just add those on your wide gap shooting floor, making the upkeep on those higher because they're like 3k anyway, so you might as well. So what I would recommend is to start with the corners maybe. As you notice, you should be able to just completely build through the roof. So we have a windmill up there, then we have each corner, and then you could also add one up here. Or if you want even more, you could one right here. And one right here as well, and build that up. Now, for the actual build, I think that is it. The last tip I can give you is spam turrets, especially on your roof and on your shooting floor. You should at least have 3 turrets per part. So I would highly recommend to maybe even put a triangle right there and have a turret right there for watching this. Then maybe even have a turret up here and also have a turret out here watching outwards. It is very important because it is definitely, I consider this base being rated from the shooting floor or the top to be the weakest. So yeah, focus on that. That's basically the last tip I can give you when building this base, and I think that is it for the build. Compound speaks for itself.
Now, before we finalize this video and jump into the outro, I would like to add a little bonus clip of the base design that I've made that is a variant of this base. It's actually the honeycombed footprint, but it's the base I've been building on Vital Main recently for OT. Now, just to give you guys some ideas, here's a quick preview of that. Just want to show you what you can do to vary the base, and if you decide to use the honeycombed core or the honeycombed ring around, what you can actually do. So there's a lot of differences. For example, the corner peaks are a lot bigger, while the base in general is a lot bigger. I just wanted to quickly show this to you guys to give you some further inspiration on how you can change your base. The entire inner layer is completely honeycombed. As you can see, the inner core is still the same, still the circle core. As you can see, although the outer ring is honeycombed, instead of on the corners, I have done the way up to the peaks through the honeycomb as well. Now these corners are a little bit different, although the inside here is once again exactly the same. Still the same ankle biters, pots, and on each corner once again we have a jump up. Go to main loot. I think this one will, because there's an armored door. Yep. As you can see, here's main loot. I really like this main loot design. It's very satisfying. Funny enough, it's definitely not enough space, but just a quick show off. And on the shooting floor, what I've done as well, on the shooting floor here, it's instead of a ladder hatch, I have the jump ups better, so you can put shotgun traps on there, for example. Now, the ring around, basically the same. As you can see, wide gap shooting floor, bedrooms in here. And also what's nice about this one is that the corners are a lot wider. See, there's a lot more space. Now, instead of having the ladder hatch here going up to the roof's still completely open, I wanted to do the jump ups on the corners. That way you can potentially shoot on your roof and then go out through this door. That's it for the roof. A lot of turrets on the roof as well. And in the core of the roof, we have this hub again. I like to call it like a defense hub, really. Yeah, it features a lot of beds, a lot of boxes to potentially defend a raid from. Here we have a nice little peeking in main loot as well. And yeah, that's basically the base. Some ankle biter kind of angles on the shooting floor as well, in case you somehow have to take that back from raiders. Yeah, that's basically the base. Just to give you a little bit of inspiration about what you can do with this footprint. There's so many different layouts you can go for, and you should never build exactly the same as how I built it on the video. Now, that was it for this base design. Now, with the original ring 3x3s being still used a lot, especially in the more competitive scene in Rust, I definitely think that this circle ring variant is going to be used a lot as well. It's something refreshing, something new, and definitely something I have not seen before. Considering all the aspects, it is a lot better to build as a 3x3 ring base. Now, as always, I have tested this base a lot before publishing it and before showing you guys, just to perfect it as much as I can. Unfortunately, me myself, in bases like this on previous wipes, I haven't really been online rated that much. And so I would love to see it if you guys do end up building this base and do end up getting rated. Feel free to send me your videos, pictures, or whatever. It's honestly just amazing to see how many people are actually actively using my base designs, and I'm well aware of that. So keep it up, keep defending those raids, and keep enjoying the game. Now, I hope you all liked this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and a comment. I would really appreciate that. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As I already mentioned in the recent 2x2 that I released, this is not the last base I will be releasing. There's a lot of bases I have used in the past recently, and I would love to share them all with you guys. And so they will all be coming very soon as well. But thank you all for watching this video. If you want to stay updated, make sure to follow me on my social media, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.